So these are the items that I bought from the Mill Market yesterday, which I just wanted to show in closer detail, and also how I'm going to clean them up and then where I'm going to put them in my room. So I did end up getting the pair of silver candle holders. I thought this was quite a good deal for two. I don't have any silver ones. I did get the silver tray also. I got this because I always look at these in secondhand stores, but they're always in terrible condition, like rusty and really scratched. This is one of the best ones I've seen. The back is pretty scratched, but obviously not a problem, but the front is really good and I really like these little intricate details. And then of course I had to get this candelabra. I went into the market, just really looking for candle holders because I've gotten some of my favorite ones from there. So I know that they always have really good ones there and I didn't want to spend too much on one. I think the Mill Market in general has gotten more expensive in the past few years. Quite cheap, but it's pretty damaged. The other ones were a little bit more expensive and I actually like this one more than the other ones I saw. So I'm confident that I can clean this up and fix this discolored part. When I was buying this, the lovely lady at the counter showed me that this opens up, so that's pretty cool. So I'm going to clean this up now and try to make it look a bit better. Hi, so I'm getting into my book chat now and I'm going to talk about the books that I have read recently and also the books that I am now reading. And the first book that I'm going to talk about is The Unworthy. This is a book that I mentioned in my last video because I had just started it and I have now finished it. I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5. I thought it was a great read and it was very unique. This story follows a woman who is living in what is known as a sacred sisterhood. It's basically like a cult where they worship this unnamed god. She's living in this dystopian world and she's recording her experiences even though it's forbidden. I will say that this is a little hard to get into at first due to the lack of context and also the writing style, as the author will stop mid-sentence often. However, this is something that I came to love because this little detail just makes it feel more authentic and like you are really reading somebody's journal. But the author does reveal more information as the story goes on, like the dystopian setting. However, we never come to know why the world has ended up in this state. There's just hints at some environmental factors, but we don't end up knowing what those are because that's not really the main focus of the story. I suppose it's more about her experiences there and how she interacts with other characters, and then some things unfold, which I won't go into, obviously. I really like the dystopian setting because personally I love books where where these kinds of things happen. And I've mentioned before, I really like books with a religious horror element. There's just something about these kinds of stories that involve religion when things go wrong that I find really interesting. So overall, I quite liked this book. I probably would read it again, but it just kind of left me wanting a little bit more. I think the ending was great, but it was a little bit slow at the start. However, I don't mind books that have that kind of slow burn build up, but there was just something kind of missing at the end for me. But if you're into dystopian books with a religious horror element, I would recommend checking this one out. So after I finished The Unworthy, I decided to pick up a book that I've just seen around a lot lately, and that book is The Lamb by Lucy Rose. This book is about a young girl. She's still in school. I think she's only around 10 years old, and her mother, and basically they are cannibals and they live out in the woods and they lure people in, which they call strays, and they eat them. It's pretty gruesome, but not the most horrific book I've ever read. So I ended up rating this book 3.5 out of 5. I think it was an interesting story, and I've not read any books before with cannibalism, but I think this would have been a lot more compelling if it was shorter and more condensed, because even though I enjoyed the start of the story and I was interested in the characters and interested to know what was going to happen, the middle of the book towards about 80% just felt like I was waiting for something to happen, and it was just kind of building, but very, very slowly, to the point where I started losing interest a bit, but of course I continued because I wanted to know how this was going to end up. And I do think the end of this book was great. You could kind of see it was going to go one way or the other. And I did like the way the plot did end up going, but I think because it felt delayed because it seemed slow to get there, it was not an incredible ending for me. I think the main character, the young girl whose name is Margot, was a very interesting character. She is so young and there is an innocence to her despite the fact that she is a cannibal, because her mother has raised her this way. So it was interesting because I kind of saw that as not really her fault. She was so young and impressionable, and she was aware of what she was doing, and she did seem to have remorse and regret and know that what they were doing was wrong, but she's definitely the most relatable character in the book. So that was very interesting for me. I don't think I'd read this book again though, just because it was so slow, why I gave it a lower rating. I think the writing is good, and I would recommend checking it out if you were interested in a book like this. So after reading that book, I decided to pick up Tender as the Flesh, again by Augustina, who wrote The Unworthy. This is quite a popular book, and I guess I'm just kind of riding this cannibal wave now. I never thought I would be interested in reading books about cannibals. It's just not something that's really interested me in the past, but I'm now reading 2 in a row. So this already is so much more gruesome if I have to compare it to The Lamb. Felt like a little bit softer, but this is pretty full on because it's about a world in which meat from animals has diminished, so they've started eating humans, and this story follows a character who works in a slaughterhouse, so it's pretty confronting, some of the stuff so far. Like, I'm not far in, but the first chapter alone kind of made me feel queasy. So I'm now reading this one, and I hope to finish this in the next few days, so I will let you know how gross and disgusting this gets in my next video. I also bought 2 books recently, which I'm going to start soon, which are part of Dante's Divine Comedy. So I've got Hell and Purgatory. Because I bought these secondhand, I wasn't able to get Part 3 Paradise, but I will buy that one when I get to it. This is a book that I've wanted to read for a long time, but I felt really intimidated to. But for some reason, last week on YouTube, I just got a lot of videos related to Dante and the Divine Comedy. So I ended up watching a lot of mini documentaries about his life and this book, and the concepts and his life in general just really interested me. So I thought it was finally time to pick up this book. Quite a few years ago, I was in a bookstore in the city here, and there was this old man next to me browsing in the classic section, and he just came up to me and started talking to me. He said to me, "You should buy this book." and I didn't because I didn't know that much about it at the time. And then I just started looking into it, and it's actually a book that I have talked to a lot with my partner because he's from Europe. Over there, in some places, they study this book in school, which I thought was amazing, but his experience with it was not the best, and he thinks that it is going to be hard for me to read. And I'm sure some of it will be, but I'm always up for a challenge when it comes to reading. And this is a book that I do see around quite a lot in secondhand stores, but I wasn't sure which translation I wanted to read. But after doing some research, I've discovered that this one by Dorothy Sayers is apparently very good for people who are reading this book for the first time. And actually I started to read her introduction, Dante's life, and this book in general. You can tell that she is very passionate because even the introduction itself is over 65 pages, which is one of the biggest ones I've ever seen. Like generally classics will have quite a chunky intro, but this is, yeah, definitely one of the bigger ones that I've experienced. And I did jump ahead and I did read part of the first canto. I haven't fully jumped into it yet. I just kind of wanted to test how it would be for me. And once I've started reading it, it does seem a lot less scary. I understand what Dante is describing so far, and also Dorothy has some great notes as you read along. She will describe a lot of things in detail, so that's really helpful. Another thing I really love about the classics is that because they're so well researched and there's so much material out there, you can find a lot of resources to help you understand things if there isn't enough in the edition that you're reading. And of course, there'll be a lot of discussion online about it as well. The reason why I have not fully jumped into this yet, apart from just being a bit busy this week, is because I impulsively thought that this would be a great book to annotate. I don't usually annotate, and the reason for that is because I'm quite a fast reader. I have tried to annotate in the past because I think it looks really nice at the way people do it, and I do like finding annotated secondhand copies of books and seeing the notes that people have left. Personally, I just find it slows me down and that really annoys me. But this is a book that I really want to take my time with and just really get into and try to understand as much as I can. So I've ordered some items to annotate with, like highlighters and sticky notes, and I want to make my own little notes in here. So I will get back to you on my process with this. I'm also really excited to announce our Patreon book club read for May is Blood on Her Tongue by Joanna Van Veen. This has been so high on my TBR list, and I actually nearly started it last month, but I had a feeling that we would be reading this one soon. So I'm really happy that this won the poll, and yeah, we'll be starting that one very soon. So if you'd like to join us, I will put a link below. I really love the cover of this because this dog looks like Rico a little bit, I think, but maybe just white. But I've also heard some really good reviews of this book, so very excited to jump into that together. But that's it for me in terms of reading for now. I really hope you enjoyed this cozy autumn video. I had a lot of fun making this one, and thank you to my Patreon members for supporting me and reading with me every month. I will see you next time. Bye.